Do me a favor and watch this entire video, because by the end of this video, you're going to realize without a shadow of a doubt that we are in a full-on bull market. I can almost guarantee you that. Okay, so first we have the US dollar. We have to talk about the US dollar because the US dollar is the global reserve currency. People always wonder, like, why do you always talk about the US dollar? You're not even a US citizen. It doesn't matter. It's the global reserve currency. That is what Bitcoin is being priced in, okay? Like most people price Bitcoin in USD. Okay, so now we have the US dollar has now lost more than 10% of its value this year. It's the worst half in almost 40 years. Look at this chart, guys. Like, there's so much pressure on the US dollar right now as the global reserve currency. And that pressure isn't going to get any better. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. As I've been saying since I started showing up in this channel in 2020, all right? So that is really good for Bitcoin, okay? I'm not talking about short-term price movements. I'm talking about longer term. You gotta have a longer term outlook on Bitcoin, okay? So we also have the odds of an interest rate cut by September FOMC meeting has soared to over 71%. Yes, that's gonna put more pressure on the US dollar, but you know what? You know what's putting a lot of pressure on the US dollar? The amount of currency that they are printing and government involvement with the free market, you know, like tariffs and all that stuff, you know, that's going to create a lot of pressure because it's more isolating. That is the US isolating itself. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, this is going to put ridiculous amount of pressure, especially on the middle class, which relies on a stronger US dollar because they're not in the amount of inflation hedges that many of us are. If you are a middle class person, definitely get a hold of inflation hedges like Bitcoin, because wait till you see what I have to say. Now we have Lynn Alden saying new normal, nothing is going to stop this train. Now this is her retweeting Carl B. Menger on Twitter saying the US budget deficit to hit 9% of GDP by 2034, a level historically seen only during wars and severe crises. And this projection assumes no recession, no lower interest rates. Fiscal insanity is the new normal. So yeah, guys, like it is a runaway train. This is why I'm so adamant on telling people buy Bitcoin, have, you know, a very long-term outlook, because these short-term movements, as you're going to see later on in this video, are absolutely meaningless. They're meaningless, guys. And they're going to, if you're listening to most people, they're going to say, okay, you know, I'm going to trade this and I'm going to keep trading like short-term price volatility. That's a recipe for disaster if you were 95% of the population. Okay, if you're not a world-class trader, you're gonna lose money in this space, okay? Now, we also have this Wall Street MAV. How did we arrive at this point? How did they arrive at this point in the US, where 25% of all tax revenue goes to just paying the interest in $37 trillion in government debt? Now, it also shows you annually what is happening. US government total revenue is about $5 trillion. The US government interest on debt is about $1.2 trillion. U.S. government spending is about $7 trillion. Now, okay, so they're bringing in $5 trillion and they're spending $7 trillion. And the interest is about $1.2 trillion of the $5 trillion that the revenue is. I mean, that number is going to be over 100%. Eventually. Now, these are really insane numbers. I know most people can't wrap their heads around them because of how huge they are. Like $1 trillion is a very big number. It's 1,000 billion, okay? We're just talking about US debt. We're not even talking about the $321 trillion of global debt that's out there. Yeah, so the Federal Reserve, when you hear like they're going to be lowering interest rates, essentially what that means is that you're punishing the middle class. You're punishing people that don't have inflation hedges, which is really sad because these people make up the working class in the United States for the most part. And you know that they're going to get they're getting absolutely destroyed with the inflation. And when, you know, Trump is saying, hey, I want to lower interest rates, he's wanting to devalue the US dollar. You know, that's going to hurt a lot of people, okay? So just letting you know, that's how it works, okay? Now, we also have EJ Antony saying, let's be crystal clear, we cannot afford another war. Not in Iran, not in Ukraine, not anywhere. When the debt ceiling is lifted, we'll be $38 trillion in debt, with annual interest heading to $1.8 trillion. See, this number is never going down, guys. For the rest of your lives, it's never going to go down. So he says we can't afford it, but actually they can, because it's the global reserve currency. So they're just going to print and print and print. And you can't vote your way out of this, okay? This is why this space is about to explode higher. Now, 10 years ago, that's exactly the price it was, $250. I remember that. And those were the days where people actually understood Bitcoin. You know, they understood that the Federal Reserve is printing tons of currency, and that's what enabled us to hold through so much volatility. I mean, I saw 90% drawdowns, 90. Okay, this is during a bear market. And, you know, volatility was off the chart. I mean, I'm going to cover let me actually get into this right now. So we've experienced, like many of us, you've probably been watching this channel for a while, you've seen some crazy volatility that's happened with Bitcoin. Now, let's go over to the 2016-2018 bull market. That's one of my favorite ones, because like that was the last true Bitcoin bull market. You know, I think it was the most fun one. You know, the regulations weren't really there yet. Obviously they were coming. But, you know, that's where, you know, IPOs or ICOs were around. And that was like, I think it was the first NFTs were around as well. Like I remember CryptoKitties. That was the very first one I think I've ever seen, NFTs. And it was a wild time. It was really cool. Everybody was experimenting. There weren't too many scams. You know, we had like BitConnect and all that. But here's what we experienced during that time. We saw a 38% drop. This is during that bull market. Another 38% drop. We had a 33% drop after that, and then a 38% drop, and then a 36% drop, and then a 29% drop. As you can see in this chart, it's like, that was amazing. That was a normal bull market. We experienced crazy volatility. We've only experienced a 33% drop this time. And then after that, we went from $111,000 to $98,000, and everybody thought it was over. It's kind of like, you know, weak men create hard times or whatever. These are really weak people that have come into this space, and they scare people out of investing into Bitcoin for the long run, because they're like, oh, it's a bear market now. No, this isn't a bear market, guys. Like we are in a full-on bull market here. So relax, understand what I said before. That number, that $38 trillion in debt, $37 trillion in debt, $1.7 trillion of interest payments. Guys, that's a finished currency right there. There's a reason why Nixon took the US off the gold standard in 1971. He wanted to expand credit. The Federal Reserve wanted to do this. They wanted to print currency into oblivion. That is exactly what's happening right now. So tell me if I'm totally wrong. I would love to hear that, but I know I'm right. All right, guys. So if you do want to see what we're doing with our crypto, check out learningcrypto.com. It's got lots of educational stuff, and you can see when we're buying and when we're selling, because we're going to sell during this bull market. We've already sold a little bit, but we are going to sell much more, because the next bear market is going to be so fun to buy cheap Bitcoin once again. All right, talk to you soon.